In the heart of a vast African savanna, there existed a village named Oduro, a place of rich tradition and breathtaking beauty. Surrounded by towering acacia trees and rolling hills, Oduro was known not only for its fertile lands but also for its wise and wealthy inhabitants. Among them was a young man named Kofi Asante, who was admired and envied by many. Kofi was the sole heir to the Asante fortune, a treasure trove amassed over generations by his forefathers. His father, Nana Asante, had been a respected chief, known for his fair judgment, leadership, and generosity. When Nana Asante passed away, he left Kofi not only with great wealth but also with the responsibility of maintaining the family's legacy. Despite his fortune, Kofi's heart was heavy with loneliness. He had everything he could ever want: vast lands, cattle, gold, and a grand estate, but he yearned for something money could not buy: true love. Kofi desired a wife who would cherish him for his character, not his wealth. He often observed the women in Oduro, wondering if any of them would love him if he were a simple man. One evening, after a long day of overseeing his lands, Kofi sat on the veranda of his grand mansion. The sky was ablaze with the colors of the setting sun, and the air was filled with the sounds of nature. Yet, even in this paradise, Kofi felt empty. How can I find a woman who loves me for who I am, and not for what I own? Kofi pondered this question as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over his estate. He knew that most of the women who showed interest in him were drawn by his wealth and status. This realization troubled him deeply, and he began to devise a plan. The next morning, Kofi sought the counsel of his old friend and mentor, Elder Kwame, a wise and humble man who had served the Asante family for decades. Kwame was known for his deep understanding of human nature and his ability to see beyond the surface. Kofi found Kwame sitting under a large baobab tree near the village square. The elder looked up and smiled as Kofi approached. "Oh, Kofi, my son. What brings you here so early in the day?" Kofi sat down beside Kwame, his face serious. "Elder Kwame, I am troubled. I wish to find a wife, but I fear that the women in this village are only interested in my wealth. How can I find someone who loves me for who I truly am?" Kwame nodded, his eyes filled with understanding. "It is a difficult task, Kofi. Many are blinded by riches, unable to see the true heart of a person. But there is a way." Kofi leaned forward, eager to hear the elder's wisdom. "You must become one of them. Leave behind your wealth, your fine clothes, and your grand home. Live as a common man, and see who comes to love you for your heart." Kofi considered the elder's words carefully. The idea of living as a poor man was daunting, but he knew it was the only way to discover the truth. "I will do it, Elder Kwame. I will leave behind everything and live among the villagers as a poor man. Only then will I find the woman who truly loves me." Elder Kwame smiled, placing a hand on Kofi's shoulder. "It will not be easy, but I believe you will succeed. Remember, Kofi, true love is worth more than all the riches in the world." Kofi wasted no time in putting his plan into action. He called together his most trusted servants and explained his decision. Many were shocked, but they respected Kofi's wishes and promised to keep his secret. The first step was to sell off his luxurious clothing, jewels, and other symbols of wealth. Kofi exchanged his fine robes for simple, worn-out garments that any commoner in the village might wear. He traded his comfortable sandals for a pair of old, patched-up shoes and wrapped a piece of cloth around his head to conceal his identity. Kofi also sold his grand estate, choosing to live in a small, dilapidated hut on the outskirts of the village. The hut had only one room, a thatched roof, and a dirt floor. The only possessions he kept were a few essential items: a wooden bowl, a mat to sleep on, and a small bag of grain. To complete his transformation, Kofi adopted a new name, Kwame, a common name in the village. From that day forward, he would live as Kwame, the poor laborer, and no one would know of his true identity. Life as Kwame was challenging. Kofi was unaccustomed to the hardships faced by the poor villagers. He had to fetch water from the river, chop firewood, and work in the fields alongside other laborers. The work was physically demanding, and his hands, once soft from a life of luxury, soon became rough and calloused. Despite the difficulties, Kofi embraced his new life with determination. He wanted to experience the world as the villagers did, to understand their struggles, and to find the woman who would love him for his character, not his wealth. Kwame quickly became known in the village as a hard worker, always willing to lend a hand to those in need. He helped repair roofs, tend to crops, and carry heavy loads. His humility and kindness earned him the respect of the villagers, though none suspected he was the wealthy Kofi Asante. One hot afternoon, while Kwame was fetching water from the river, he noticed a young woman struggling to carry a large clay pot on her head. The pot was filled to the brim with water, and it was clear she was having difficulty balancing it. Kwame hurried over to help her. "Let me help you with that." The young woman looked up, surprised by his offer. She was beautiful, with smooth brown skin, bright eyes, and a smile that lit up her face. Her name was Oma, and she was known throughout the village for her kindness and generosity. "Thank you, Kwame. You're very kind." Kwame took the pot from her, lifting it effortlessly onto his own head. As they walked together back to the village, they talked about their lives, their hopes, and their dreams. Oma explained that she lived with her elderly mother and younger siblings. Her father had passed away years ago, leaving the family to fend for themselves. Oma worked tirelessly to support her family, taking on any job she could find, from farming to weaving baskets. Kwame was struck by Oma's strength and resilience. Despite her hardships, she always had a smile on her face and a kind word for everyone she met. As they parted ways, Kwame felt a growing admiration for Oma.